So the first exercise is a hybrid movement, which might be the best thing in the world for you, or maybe the worst thing in the world for you. So please exercise caution when you are trying this move, if you're going to try this move. Hey guys, welcome to another video where I'm going to run you through my current leg session. Now I say legs, but it should be quads, glutes, calves, and a bit of trunk work at the end. So first up, a little bit of context before we get into the session. Now normally your microcycle is 7 days. You've got your Monday to Sunday, you've got your days on and your days off. But it doesn't have to always be like that. In fact, in some periods of training where I'm doing like heavy deadlifts and I'm focusing on max strength, my microcycle will be 10 days. In other periods of training that I'm on right now, where I'm really trying to focus on body composition, my microcycle is only 5 days. So I'm not following days of the week. I've got my 5-day microcycle and I start afresh on the 6th day with day 1 again, if that makes sense. This means that my training frequency is higher than it was in the previous block, and it's a really good way to challenge your body with something new. So this isn't something that I've done for 2 years, and every time that I change my microcycle, and it's probably the last thing that I change, it means that I'm putting my body under a new sort of stress, coupled with the fact that I'm following a new program. With that being said, let's have a look at what I did today. So the first exercise is a hybrid movement, which might be the best thing in the world for you, or maybe the worst thing in the world for you. So please exercise caution when you are trying this move, if you're going to try this move. Remember, I'm sharing my current training with you, my current program. I'm not saying, hey, do this. I'm just saying this is what I'm doing and here's why. So this exercise is a hybrid between the sissy squat and the heel raised squat. You'll see that I start with a sissy squat and that I push my hips forward and allow my knees to go over my toes. It's very important. Once I get to the point where I've kind of reached my limit, I then break at the hips and go into more of a traditional squat pattern, but keeping my knees over my toes. So this is really going to challenge the quads, and it's something that you have to build up to. If you've never squatted this way, then it's something that you have to build up to. And look at how much weight I'm using. 0, okay? It's because I need to build up to adding weight to it if I get there. This is more about tissue conditioning, making sure the tendons and ligaments are getting to that end range of motion, and my quads can support and handle that. If I was having a client that wanted to try it and I thought it was appropriate for them, then I'd start them off using their hands with, a band as they go down. And we've got some of the guys doing that now, and it can be really, really great for knee health if you're at that correct stage, or it can be really bad for knee health depending on where you are. So just like if you look at some of my more rehab-based videos for the shoulder, we need to work in these extended and end ranges to build up robustness in the joint, and it's the same with the knee. And 10 years ago I had chronic tendinopathy, which isn't chronic anymore because I took care of it, but it did take me a long time to figure out the exact right exercises where I needed to start, which are really, really simple, and then build up the load and the complexity over time to the point where I can just drop into an ugly squat and feel absolutely fine, to the point where I can do all the things that I want to do, run, judo, jump and all that stuff. And my knees feel really good because I'm loading them very sensibly in max strength positions where mechanically everything is absolutely perfect and sound, if I can use that terminology. And I'm also loading it in positions where it's just body weight, but the resistance of my body weight is enough, where I'm in positions that are less advantageous mechanically speaking, let's say. So again, it all depends on the person. Don't blame it on the internet. This exercise is for me, maybe it's not for you. Go and see a local trainer to understand if it works well for you, or if it's maybe something that's later down the line. So next I moved on to box squats, and I was doing 5 sets of 10 reps on box squats. Now if you follow my channel, you know that I'm a fan of box squats, but I don't do box squats the way that Westside does it, where you've got vertical, shin angle, or even negative. I always do positive, just mimic the way that I would my squat. I use box squats just to remove the stretch reflex. So for some athletes that can make it harder. For some athletes it doesn't really affect anything because they're really statically strong. And of course it depends on the range of motion. I was using this box height to really allow me to smash the glutes and the quads. Also 5 sets of 10 with 120 kilograms, and you've got 90 seconds rest. It's just like a lactate dump. So that's the theme of my programming right now, is like I'm pretty much, I'm in close proximity to failure. On bench press, I was using 80 kilograms because the turnaround time was ridiculous. but it's working. Like it's enough to, my body knows that it's done something new and it's having to adapt, and I'm seeing little changes already, so that's quite encouraging for me. So from there I moved on to single leg hip thrust, which is a really simple exercise. Guys, I used to be a big fan of hip thrusts and loading them up, but I had like guys that are squatting 190 to 220 and they needed like close to 300 kilograms just to load up a bilateral hip thrust. So I just stop all that and just go to single leg, and you can really isolate the glutes and train them really well with much less load. Now you could argue, well, why don't you just do Bulgarian split squats all the time if you're just favoring unilateral work? And you know, if you're doing heavy back squats, there's an element of control going through your trunk, and there is a little bit of that going through the hip thrust, but not as much as a back squat. So yeah, I'll stick to my bilateral back squats, my unilateral work of course as and when, but when it comes to hip thrust, I just find it easier to get the stimulus that I want just by doing single leg hip thrusts. Don't need to load up a bar, it's much more comfortable, saves a lot of time, and I get what I want out of the exercise. You'll notice that when I'm doing this, there's a second pause where I'm really trying to make sure that I'm extended and using the glutes. And here I was doing 3 sets of 15 each side. Obviously you can add a dumbbell to that if you're doing this exercise. For me that was enough. Again, a 90-second turnaround. So after that I moved on to single leg heel raise. I was doing 10 on one side, 10 on the other, and then 10 together with a 60-second rest. So a really simple exercise for the calves. If you look hard enough, you should be able to see some sort of calf muscle in there, but if you can't, I don't blame you. Anyway guys, bad jokes aside, what I moved on to then was some trunk training. So for the lower back and the anterior core, what I did was some prone holds, and every so often I would put in a press and I was holding that position for 30 seconds, and then I moved on to supine abs. So I just flipped myself around, I grabbed 5 kilograms, and again I did 30 seconds, and just taking that weight away from me, away from my center of mass, obviously is going to make it more challenging. Same with the prone presses, you press out, that becomes harder. Sure, you can use weight or you can just do it empty hands as I was doing here. So guys, a really simple session that I thought I would share with you. I'll share my other sessions in this program as well, just if anyone's interested, because that will give you the full picture. You'll also see that I'm doing the hamstrings in a session where I've also got arm and shoulder work. So it's all a bit different right now, but again, the goal is the goal, and the goal is to make a bit of a dent on body composition right now and get my weight down a little bit, enjoy the training process because that's really important, and then come back to the strength and the power stuff later down the line once I'm in a place where I'm happy and can move on into that. If you have any questions or comments about what I'm doing and why I'm doing it, then just fire it into the comment section and I'll get back to you. I hope you guys are enjoying your training. I'll see you in the next video. Cheers, ciao.